When you came out of the Big Brother house, there was some backlash, I remember.
There's a lot of backlash.
Mm-hmm.
I still get backlash to this day.
Okay. Uh-huh.
That was tough.
Your
That
time
was
in the
very
house,
tough.
do you feel like it worked out in the end? Like, did it give you something that has helped you?
I've never been a person to I've never been a person to regret things. It's written right there. Be very senza rompianti. Live without regrets. I never regretted it, and I always look for the things that it gave me rather than those it took away from me.
Okay.
I'm pretty much sure it took a couple of things away from me, but I never focused on that. I've always focused on the things that it gave me, and I think it gave me a lot. It was an experience.
You went for the experience.
It was an experience, and it was a hell of an experience.
Okay.
It was a hell of an experience. You have to be in there to understand what it's like to live in a room, in a house with 3-4 rooms, and have the whole world watching you, down to the showers. It's a crazy, mind-blowing experience.
Speaking of the showers, you recently posted
Even
that
in the bathrooms.
your one of those bathroom scenes
Oh, yeah.
is on a questionable site somewhere.
Oh, with when I was preparing for my boxing.
No,
Which one?
One of the bathroom scenes in the Big Brother house.
Oh, yes. That got pulled down real fast from Instagram.
I was like, inappropriate to some degree.
I'm a rather risk person.
You are.
I push the envelope sometimes. Sometimes with poor taste. A lot of times with poor taste, actually. But in our industry, it works two ways. Sometimes you push things a little bit too far, and I watch the other people, from Trevor Noah, and for example, Trevor Noah was usually making a joke about the Pakistanis and the Indians, which is very sensitive, and it blew up on him so bad. He was once making a joke about the French people, and it blew up on him so bad. And in our industry, sometimes you push it, and some people get it, and a lot of people came back and said, Trevor, you know what? You were joking, we get it.
Okay.
And then many times he's hit back at South Africans, and they're like, no, you're one of us. How can you joke about us? And people were like, come on, he's an entertainer. That's what he does. But many people many times will look back and say, that was very insensitive.
Okay, but you've made it a habit to be controversial, though, about
I don't think
so
it's-
many different things. Even if it's as simple as, controversial in terms of what people expect normally in society or used to.
Yeah.
I think one of the first goat races, you went out with nipple rings, I think,
One.
shirt off. Of course, Ugandans were like, whoa, what's happening here? Then if I think about the things that have jumped out, you went on a night run, I think.
A naked night one. We've done that a couple of times. Yeah.
You seem to enjoy not having clothes on.
Yeah, but that's one thing aside. That's one thing unto itself. But it's not like many times.
Is
What
that
people
you
need to
just
understand.
being you or
Yeah,
trying to...
it's me being you. It's me being me. You don't court the controversy. And if you look at it, out of
Some
the
people do.
Some people
Intentional.
do, but it usually comes out. And sometimes if you look at it outside the context of Uganda, some of these things are not controversial. A lot of them are not controversial. It's not controversial for college students to do a naked run. It happens in a lot of universities around the world. Again, out of the Ugandan context, many of the things are not. Nipple rings are very controversial in other countries. It's just that here, in this setting, a lot of these things come across as controversial. But it's a norm in other countries. I get hit sometimes by my car, and guys are like, "You're such a show. Why would you hit a car like that?" And I'm like, in a different world, people do this on a daily. They have the roof open or whatever. They do this on a daily. Here, it might come across as, oh, you're looking for attention, but no, it's just a person. You like something and you do it. I've never liked shirts. I like shorts.
You do post about your car a lot, though.
For two reasons. One, it's good for, in the industry, it's good to have branding. You need to have some kind of branding.
Now we're getting to it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand my trade as well. You got to have some branding. People have to identify you by something. And it's funny. I was once watching a Chris Brown interview, a very old one. And this is Chris Brown. He was like, he went to this customized shop to get his car worked on. And he was like, oh, now when I roll up to the club, everybody's going to know I'm there. And I didn't get it, but I understood that for brands, you have to have a presence.
Yeah.
you have to have a presence somehow. And it's why people do a lot of crazy things. You know, they have outstanding haircut, you know, their dress style, so that you can feel the brand.
So
all
you
right?
can stand out.
Yeah, it's got to stand out. There's that angle to it. But then the other one is, I know it pissed off a lot of people. No, it not doesn't piss them off. It rubs them the wrong way. So I like to, you know, poke them a little bit. Ding, 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 ding. They're like, oh, you don't like this guy, but it's fun to play with people. It's a psychological joke I play. Sometimes.
Yeah. So you do tend to be quite controversial in your social media. I mean, that's the industry we're in right now. Social media is very powerful.
Yeah.
And
I'm toning it down though.
You did say that, you know, sometimes you've made mistakes, and I have to bring up something that happened recently.
Yeah.
There's a personality here in Uganda who had her nude pictures leaked just recently.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking of what I know, which is I saw 2 of your posts. One was either you were starting a challenge.
I wasn't starting it. I was jumping onto it.
Or jumping onto a challenge.
Yeah.
Regarding her situation.
Yeah.
And the second was something about staying indoors with a bottle of body lotion.
Yes, there were those 2. I actually got rid of one real early. But anyway.
Yeah, I think you took them down. So that
yes, I did take them down eventually.
Yeah. You know, we're living in an age of cyberbullying, and especially with what you know, what you're constantly finding out as a media personality.
Yeah. You know what? Life is a learning process, and I don't think there's a point we get to where we're completely in control of it and we understand it. So many times, and you fall down many times, you will always fall down. The most important thing is understanding you made a mistake and you walk away from it and learn from it. If it happened again, that would be a problem, all right?
I think so, because
that would be a problem.
You do know her. You've met her.
Yes,
right?
I know her. I've met her. We're in the industry.
Her.
You know what I mean? I know her. Yeah, I don't have a number, sadly, but yeah, I know her.
But I have to come back to cyberbullying and the fact that so many people do it, but especially for someone in your position with your following, it's amplified to another level.
I'll explain where I came from. I came from something that's integral to me, which is I'm a very light person, and even my family have said, you know, you need to get serious about certain things. One of my personality flaws, is I don't take too many things serious. It's a very big problem. It's a very big problem, and I try to deal with it. But I try to make light of a serious situation. Maybe I didn't do it right, but my perspective was that, one, people need to laugh off these things. They do happen. They do happen, but I think when you take something a little bit too serious, you know, you shouldn't be too serious about it. In my opinion, for starters, you know, I'm okay with those pictures. It's a pity they leak, you know, but we shouldn't really go in on the fact that this happened in terms of
but if you make fun of it, you are going
No, you're lightening a situation.
No, you're not. For you, not for the person who's involved.
That's possible. That is true. But then when you give it a lighter, you know, a little lighter angle, what I was trying to push out there, maybe I didn't do it right, was that, listen guys, this happened. Let's laugh about it. Let's laugh about it. Sure, it's tough on her, and you know, there's a lot of implications, tough at career and everything, but we must be able to laugh at certain things at one point, especially when the milk is spilled. Sometimes it doesn't spill right, sometimes it spills on somebody, but we've got to stand up and just make a crack out of it. Because when you fail to lighten a situation, you know, life loses it. And I think that's where I appreciate comedy, that comedy is able to get some of the most serious situations and try to make light of them. We've got to lighten up on people's mistakes. We've got to lighten up on all these political tensions. We've got to lighten up on these things. And that's where I came from. I didn't come from, you know, and I didn't particularly say, all right, I didn't go at her. I was just making light of the situation. And the fact that, you know, we have challenges for everything. We've got challenges for all these random things that happen. But for me, it was just making light of a situation.
Okay. But I think it's a very serious thing. Revenge porn is a very serious, sensitive issue. If only because of recent regulations I was reading about, for even, I think, trying to get a visa now, people are being asked for their social media accounts.
That is true, yeah.
Trying to get employment. you are asked to present your social media accounts.
Yeah.
So I think people need to be a lot more careful with what they put out there, because there will be, repercussions in some cases.
You know what? I'll say this. If all the energy that had been directed at me had been channeled to the person who had, for starters, leaked that, that would be great. I think they changed the focus, and I understand there was a lot of tension going on. It was, as they say, the coffin hadn't been lowered, and they, put all this. They found me and they said, we're going to go at him. And I thought I was the wrong person. I mean, you can come at me, great, but you're not. By fighting me, you're only fighting a very small part of the problem. Me as a joker is a very small part of the problem. The bigger part of the problem are these guys who actually push these pictures out there. The bigger part of the problem, the biggest part of the problem, is the people who take the pictures. You should never forget that. That's the biggest part of the problem.
Yeah.
You can fight me as much as you want to.
The people who share the pictures.
No. Take them, Angela. Take them.
He called me Angela.
Sorry, Crystal. When you take those kind of pictures, you're the problem. As much as you might want to fight the guy who leaked them, if they were taken, you consciously took them, I think you're the problem. You're the person that needs to be worked on initially. They're problems, and I think there's just levels of problems. The big one is we've got the person who took them. Then you've got the person who leaked them. Then you've got the person who made a joke about them. Do you get where I'm coming from? So what we need to be focused on is trying to get people to understand that this is wrong to do. Not that it's wrong to joke about. That's a minor problem. The problem is, don't do it.
No, I mean, you're definitely right. Don't have the material in the first place which can be used against you. But the world today, especially with digital media being what it is, you also have a responsibility if you share, because then you are just pushing the problem and taking it further.
That is true. That is true. I'm not trying to exonerate. That's a problem to be fought to unto itself. We've jumped onto all these other things. We've not come back to the root of the problem. Why does somebody take these pictures? And do they understand the repercussions of them if they take them? We need to get everybody on that conversation. By channeling energy at a person like me, we're losing focus. We're losing focus. We need to tell the girls and the guys that, listen, don't do this. We're not doing that. We're focusing, even the guy, the perpetrator. And, a lot of people are saying, when they said, anti-porn committee shouldn't have gone after her. No. She's a friend, not friend, but I know her and everything. But to be honest, the problem is the person who willingly took them. And these people need to either kickstart a conversation in public themselves that this is something you shouldn't do. Not that he shouldn't have leaked it. These are two separate things.
That is still the biggest problem, though.
Yes.
This is still the biggest problem.
I mean, he shouldn't have leaked it, but you shouldn't have taken them in the beginning. Or if you took them, understand the repercussions that come with them. And then for me, that's the most important thing. And making light of it on my side. Fine, I was wrong. I was a little bit too brash and everything. But then, we took away all the energy from something that needs to be addressed. And nobody's talking about that. Have you had any conversation about that? It's happened.
I do know there was the side of people who I stand with her. So there is definitely energy about people being aware of the lines and all of that. But you're absolutely right. That is a conversation that needs to be had.
I stand with her for being abused, or violated. All right? I stand with her has never meant I stand with her for taking those pictures.
Okay, but I will say this, though. When you say, people shouldn't be taking those pictures in the first place, that's ideal. But you will find that even for the last 30, 40, 50 years, people in relationships who are intimate and trust each other have been taking these pictures. The difference is we now have social media. And those pictures can go further. So it's not something that only this generation is doing. It's something that's probably been done.
It has, and there's no denying that. But, and I've said it before. I've taken a couple of pictures as well like that. But the problem is times change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You know, it used to be okay to smoke.
And
It used
now
to be a
it's
good thing to
not.
smoke.
Yes.
Right now, you get to a point of realization that yes, it has happened over the years, but it shouldn't happen now. And with the changing times, certain things cannot be done. I was talking about my social media recently, not only in light of that, but in light of the Americans putting that rule in
That
force.
requirement, yeah.
That is definitely going to water down to South Africa, to Kenya. All these other countries are going to pick it up. And it's just gotten, when they put that in place, it was a game changer for social media.
Yeah.
Because I literally went to my account and wiped out.
Oh my goodness.
Because I don't know when I last made a Trump joke or, you know, these things come back to haunt you. So it's just gotten to a point where we cannot post personal thoughts on social media anymore. We have personal thoughts. You can't say
But
I
you
don't
have
have
to be
personal thoughts,
careful.
but you just cannot do it. I'm learning that now, but you just cannot do it. Social media is, we want to take those pictures and we have those, but we shouldn't do them from the beginning because it's coming back to haunt you.
Yeah. That's true. A lot of people are going to learn that.
It does come back to haunt you. And I think that's a conversation we need to be having, which is that a lot of these things come back to haunt you.
So how long have you been in the media industry in Uganda now? How long?
A couple of years.
Okay. What was your turning point?
Uh,
Was it the Big Brother house? Was there a turning point for you?
I don't know, what do you mean by turning point?
Turning point, because you started out like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
When you started out, why did you want to be on radio? Why did you want to be on TV?
It gave me, sometimes you do something, or, for those in relationships, you find a person and you get along with that person, you fall in love. I think that's what they call love.
Okay.
Yeah, you're just like, this is it. This is the person,
You still in love? You still in love?
Still in love with the job. It gave me a certain liberty and an understanding of my personality. I could dress up like this on a Monday, put on my shorts or whatever. It molded into my personality very well. So that was great for me, and I've always appreciated that. I've always known I was never cut out for 9 to 5s. I was never cut out to be a singer, or that also doesn't work for me. But this always gave me a chance to be the person that I am.
Okay.
I'm not sure there's been a turning point. I'm not sure about turning points. Maybe I just don't understand it properly.
You have a daughter?
Yes, I do.
Yes. How old is she now?
Turning 6.
She's turning, wow, already?
Yeah.
Huh, okay. So, becoming a father.
Yeah.
Was that a turning point for you in any way?
Sadly
No?
not. For reasons, and again, I probably I do get kicked in a lot for saying this, but you need to understand that a lot of fathers go through a process of understanding they're going to become fathers, which is a pregnancy. I never went through that process.
Oh, you had no idea?
No, I didn't have an idea for a very long time. So it just happened upon me, and I was just like, wow, where did this come from? It's like a lottery winning, like, boom, like, okay, all right. It's when you amass that kind of, to juxtapose it, when you amass that kind of money, all of a sudden, it's very different from a person who has gradually worked to get there. You have different perspectives of it and different respects for it, should I say. A person who has worked to get to a certain point in terms of their career and their financial wealth and so forth has a different appreciation of that money vis-a-vis a person who won the lottery last night. We look at it different.
Yeah.
And, the public will always say, nobody's money, nobody's a child. You should look at it this way. But when it's just been thrown on you, it's very different.
Okay.
It's very different.
There was a time, though, that you were spending a lot of time with your daughter.
There was a time.
You really seemed to be enjoying
Yeah, I did.
it.
I had a social media run, like I think a lot of social media dads.
But then it's like you made a choice to.
Yeah, I made two things happened. One is that I figured, you know what? I think as parents, we tend to overbear on our kids. It happened to me as I was growing up, and I only realized it later. Is that we always know what's best for our kids, which is great because we're parents who've been through life and everything. Great, my dad lived 50 years more than me and stuff. He's been through life. Our parents have been through life, so they know what's up for life. But that's not the case. Times change, and people change, and people are different. They might be your kid, but we're different from our parents. And just because, daddy was a DJ or daddy lived in this in the world, in the social media world, doesn't mean I should impart it on a young one to have a social media account or have a face out there. Kids grow up and they're different from their parents. Maybe she never want to have a social media account. There are people who don't, people never want social media.
Yeah.
I have friends who I hang out with and they're like, we take pictures and they're like, please don't put the pictures on social media. I'm like, what's up? They're like,
Yeah.
I'm just not that kind of person. And I learned from my friends, I said, some people are not like this. But they're cool. They're like, Denzel, we like you and everything, but don't put us on your social media. We don't appreciate that kind of life. And I thought, why do we force the kids to take up social media, especially? Social media is a violent, cruel place. It is violent, cruel. And sometimes you should be happy for people who make a decision not to be on it. And some kids might grow up and not want to be on it. So we shouldn't make those decisions for them. And who knows what social media is going to be in 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be, it might be a disgrace to have a Facebook account in 40 years. Who knows?
Yeah, anything.
Do you know what I mean?
Times change. Yeah. So you made the decision not to have
I said, you know what,
her.
forget it. Yeah, and I Googled it and I found out there are a lot of parents out there, even those in the public eye, who always shield their kids. And
I think we saw that with Beyonce for the longest time.
for a while. But then she started, she started doing it. For some of them, it's very hard. It's very hard for Beyonce to be able to hide the kids all the time. But for those who can, I think it's a great decision. I always tell people that kids shouldn't be on social media. Plus, there's a lot of twisted minds out there and things like that. You know what I mean? You don't even need to get into that.
You said 2 reasons.
Sorry?
You said 2
Yes,
reasons.
that was the initial reason. The other reason was that, with the mother thing became a little bit muddy as well. And she started to take advantage of certain situations and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to let you be. We don't need to. You don't need to be infringing on certain things just because we share, for example, a child. I don't know if it makes sense in that way.
But do you have a relationship with her?
Do we?
Do you have a relationship with your
A talking
with your
relationship.
daughter?
Oh no, yes, of course, yes we do. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We kick it. We grandma and everything, especially. I understand how important that is. I make sure they spend a lot of time with the grandma. Their parents never stay around for that long. Grandparents never stay around for that long.
Yeah.
And they can learn a lot more from them than they can learn from us. So yeah, we do have a relationship.
Okay.
Not the best that there is, but you wish for things in life, but
Well, you do know that's up to you, though, huh?
of course it is. It is up to you. But situations are complicated in life, and many a time you never understand it. You find a person who, for example, doesn't like church, and you look at a person and try and understand them. That why don't you like church? How could you possibly hate something so perfect? Something that millions of people love all over the world. But if things have happened, the young boy was molested by a priest or something like that, you need to understand that concept. But if you immediately put your understanding on someone and say, no, how can you not like? You're supposed to like God. You're supposed to like church. You need to question and say, not question, but understand why a person says,
Where they're coming from.
even though it's very askew, and again, like that church thing, and you find a person on social media saying, forget church, I hate church, and then you're like, this guy has a problem. There's something wrong with him. Don't do that. You need to understand, why is he saying that? Maybe he's got a good reason for saying that. Understand the root of the problem, or why people do certain things, before you start being judgmental about, you're not the best person, you're not the best parent. Sometimes you're not the best child. Sometimes people say you're a terrible child. But we don't know what happens at your home. Are you being beaten up? Nobody knows that. You're supposed to love your mother. You're supposed to love your dad. But, if you've grown up as a child who's been, beaten up or, always been overshadowed at home, you will grow up as a person who just doesn't like your parents. But to a normal person, that's wrong. How can you not like your parents? People will come at you for it.
Yeah.
But you have to understand where a person comes from. And, at the end of it all, that's life. You just got to be understanding of other people. You got to understand them.
Yeah, that is true. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Pleasure having you.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, you've thrown in some words of wisdom there. What would you say? You know, because people always looking up to people entertainment, to you. I mean, they want to get on radio, want to get on TV, they want to get into space, maybe want to drive a car like yours.
Don't make it seem like that much. It is. It's you know, thinking about opening up. I must do it. I need to open up some sort of mentorship program with a couple of younger people, and try to get them to understand how hard this life is. And when I look at my life, at my level, I now understand. I juxtapose where people like Chris Brown or Jay-Z come from, when people start doing drugs and committing suicide and things like that. Our field is pretty tough, but that's not to say all fields in life aren't tough.
Yeah.
Being a banker, being a dentist, being a businessman is pretty much tough as well. But I think it's just about understanding, do you have the skin to handle this? You know, in business, people will eat you up a lot. You got to be a certain kind of person, you know. In our entertainment industry, you got to be a certain kind of person, you know what I mean? And a lot of people always say, oh, we have it easy, but it's so much to it that goes on in the background.
Yeah.
You know, we need to enlighten people about what you lose for starters when you decide to enter our world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like you gain a lot, but you lose a lot as
Huh?
well. It looks like you gain so
Yeah.
much, but you lose a
But
lot.
that is true. I mean, for a lot of industries as well. It's not obvious for ours though.
Yeah.
Ours seems very, you know, you see Usher, whatever, you're like, ooh, cool, you know,
You're
great
always
life,
going
glitz,
out, you're
glamour.
always having fun,
Yes.
you're always...
But you give up on a lot as well, and people need to understand that it's tough. But like I said, understanding is very crucial. People just need to understand where they come from and understand the people behind, you know, why does Tech for Maker have this hair, or this guy jump on stage. You need to understand people. Once we understand each other, everything is all right.
Okay. Thank you again.
Great to have you here. I'm going into the interviewer side.
That's my line.
Yeah, that's your line. I'll let you have it.
All right.